The Bloomberg's America's Morning Briefing newsletter of today says that President Trump's removal of the Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro shows that the America's new world order is here. President Trump says that the U.S. needs total access to Venezuela, including its vast oil reserves of up to 300 billion barrels. In the meantime, reactions has been pouring in from around the world to the U.S. ouster of President Maduro, as well as the comments by President Trump on the political and economic future of Venezuela. Earlier today, the African Energy Chamber, based in South Africa, issued a 12-paragraph statement urging for support, institutional continuity, and the stability of Venezuela's oil and gas industry. Now, there's a lot to discuss on the unfolding news as I take a deep dive with my guest, Ayuk, the Executive Chairman of the African Energy Chamber in Johannesburg. Sir, it's great to have you on the show as we get started in the new year.
What a way to start the new year, Bosun.
What a way to start the new year. Is the America's New World Order finally here, Ayuk?
I think the policies you see from President Trump was detailedly outlined in their national security briefing and their policies around energy dominance, and that's what we're seeing here taking place. It's not a coincidence that President Trump, in his press conference on Sunday, specifically mentioned America's presence with regards to oil and getting American companies back into Venezuela. Let's not forget, you have a lot of American explorers who used to be in Venezuela, but some of them left. But even bigger than that, Venezuela has some of the biggest or the largest oil reserves in the world. Bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than America, and you see American production declining. They're going to need more. They're going to need to replace more. And this Trump administration is not looking at an energy transition. They're looking at energy dominance so that they could really power America and really be able to sell gas and natural and oil across the world. So you're going to see a lot more exploration activity going in from Venezuelan fields.
A quick one. It's just about a year ago or so that President Trump took office or so, and he started on the side of global trade tariff. So now we're starting 2026 on the back of the removal of President Maduro of Venezuela and the talk about oil and putting perhaps boots on the ground to ensure that what happens in the oil sector. Is this a new world order, as it were?
It's not necessarily, oil has always been a national security issue of the United States of America and most countries. And we, for one, have always said Africans should make oil and natural gas a national security issue because that's energy security. And I think the moves in Venezuela explains that, like Biggie Smalls would say, and if you don't know, now you know. And this is exactly what's happening here. But again, what you're going to see is that you've had a big push where America is going to reassert itself in that Western hemisphere and really has to see that oil becomes part of it. So we will not be surprised if you're going to see more American international actions that is going to really try to get more oil, get more gas, and really assert American companies to really be able to go out there and explore. What that means for us in Africa is that how do we position ourselves to be players in the game, not for regime change or getting out of doing things that is lawful. I'm a lawyer by profession. I stand with the rule of law. I think we need to respect international law and also the Geneva Convention, and we should not be going out there and replacing leaders that we don't like because of economic reasons or whatsoever. But I do think that you're going to see America reasserting itself more and more, especially when it comes to energy and its energy security. And oil is just one of that. So you're going to see a lot more of that.
Well, NJ, the more I associate with you folks in the oil industry, the more I understand that the world of energy or oil industry is so deep. Sometimes you're going to get to see the bottom of it. It's at the bottom of the ocean. Walk me through the politics of the global oil industry. What is at stake, especially for superpowers such as the United States, Europe, Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, and others?
What is at stake here is that you're going to see, Boston, look at this. You've seen in Europe that used to get cheap gas out of Russia. Right now, they're in a crisis. They're walking away from Russian gas. America is supplying Europe a lot of gas at a high price. And America trying to get Venezuelan fields, for example, they'll be able to get a lot more oil and a lot more gas and put out there. But there's also a big issue that you have to pay attention. The big issues around where they feel Russian incursion in that hemisphere. America is saying, not my backyard. Chinese incursion in that hemisphere, America is saying, not my backyard. So everybody, these big superpowers always try to protect their neighborhood. And I think they saw the former leader of Venezuela as somebody who was open to a multipolar world, which in a sense is not very bad, but sometimes when the interests of big countries and very, very strong nations come at stake, they don't want to go into multipolarism. They want to keep their dominance, and that's where you're saying it. But now you would start saying that, does this set a framework for maybe China to go out on Taiwan or Russia to look at many other satellite states and say we want to play? Or who knows, maybe in Africa, Nigeria might just take over somebody close to it. You never know. But it is something that we're seeing a big sea change in the world, and energy is going to drive it, because now people do see that this energy industry can be competitive, and they're going to go for it.
So, when we talk about energy, is it about supply? Is it about demand? Is it about price? President Trump wants oil prices at the bottom of the barrel, in a manner of speaking. He is not interested in shale. He just said, go drill, baby, drill. That's what he wants. So is this about cheap energy for the United States? The ability to be competitive in terms of what is available to it as the world #1 political and economic powerhouse?
Absolutely. You need to get cheap energy for industrialization. You've seen what is happening in Europe. The Germans spend $800 billion on the energy vendor, and they receive nothing. America still receives 73% of its energy from fossil fuels. So what is going to happen? Energy prices have to go down for the politicians to survive in America. They're giving midterms coming up this year. But even more important, in the race for artificial intelligence, AI, and you want to be that dominant, you need to get a lot more energy. We're not talking megawatts, we're talking gigawatts. And you're going to have to produce more and get more baseload energy that you're going to drive it. And that is exactly what the drivers of this. But also, you want to be in position where you're going to reindustrialize America as they want to do, but they need energy to do that. And we have to be playing that game as well in Africa.
So, when you look at how much President Trump has played over the last 2 years or thereabout in terms of energy and his interventions in a few African countries, for example, the DRC and Rwanda, for example, in terms of mineral resource, he's keeping one permanent eye in Nigeria's northern corridor as far as uranium is concerned, where Russia has a lot of vested interest. You look at iron ore and other rare earth minerals. Do you think energy, whether for electricity or for transportation or to put in a vehicle, is the king in today's geopolitical world order and global trade? It depends on how much you can control.
Burson, I agree. Energy drives it all. Energy is going to be what drives it all. And you're seeing the trillions of dollars that they could get out of mining in DRC, and that explains it all. I think whoever controls energy that we produce today is going to control global politics and global dynamics. And that's really what he's saying. And I think America is asserting itself on that. So the real question that we have to deal with is that how is this going to affect African nations that are going to be in the crosshairs of this? That is going to be a big issue. But you're going to see a lot of Western countries going out for energy, and they're going to be very vocal about it, as President Trump was very vocal in his press release. It's no longer going to be hidden. They're going to come for it, and we better be ready to really, first of all, protect our sovereignty, defend our right to produce our oil for ourselves, but also negotiate fair deals that will benefit our people.
So, when you talk about press statements, what was the central message of the 12-paragraph statement issued today by your advocacy group office in Johannesburg regarding the developments in Venezuela? What's the meat of it?
Boyson, I couldn't hear you. Could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, your office in South Africa today issued a 12-paragraph statement regarding the latest development in Venezuela. What's the meat of it? What's the centerpiece of that 12-paragraph statement?
I think we've known Venezuela very well. I think we at the African Aid Chamber got introduced a lot to Venezuela by Mohamed Sanusi Bakindo, the OPEC Secretary General, and we've worked very well with Venezuela. Venezuelan government has been very supportive of African energy issues. They gave us a voice at COP when nobody would speak up for Africa. Venezuela was there. Let's not forget that. But Venezuela has also trained a lot of Africans through its national oil company, PDVSA, on how to run oil and gas operations, especially onshore operations. Venezuela was really there to really support African countries in their move to get into OPEC. As a founding member of OPEC, they did that. They've always worked with us to guarantee energy stability and energy security around Africa, because when we have a volatile oil market, it doesn't work. They've shown pragmatism. The acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, has been a strong, firm supporter of Africa, a pragmatic, solid lady, and I think that she's going to do very well in navigating this country during these difficult times. And we just want to be very firm. We support the Venezuelan people. We think they deserve the right to charter their own cause by themselves. That is what is expected. That's what we want in Africa. And we think that Delcy Rodriguez, she is the right person to lead this country right now and take their people to determine where they want to go and continue to have a long-term engagement with Africa, a long-term engagement with OPEC. And don't forget, Venezuela is the only non-African country that is a honorary member of the African Petroleum Producers Organization. So we want to keep this partnership and this relationship and continue working with a staunch ally that is with us when it comes to producing every drop of hydrocarbons we have in Africa.
Part of the statement issued by your advocacy group spoke about stability, institutional continuity, and the support that Venezuela needs at this time. Walk me through these three points in terms of institutional continuity that you want to see, the type of stability and support that Venezuela needs at this time.
African nations need to speak up. African nations need to stand with somebody, with a country that has stood with them. They are going to determine what they want to go, what kind of democratic institutions they want. But what we don't want is anarchy. We don't want institutions to fall apart. It might not be perfect, but they have to get it done. So guess what? We've seen transitions in many ways around Africa, be it in South Africa after apartheid ended, or be it even in Nigeria after the Abacha regime faltered. But what makes these institutions better is when nations that have gone through these kind of transitions get together and support them with lessons learned and really empower them to make those strong decisions so that democratic institutions should prevail, but also energy security should be part of it. If they're going to negotiate deals in the future with the United States or other countries, they should have also stronger negotiators, and maybe you could even get some Nigerians or Africans to support them. But also it's a great opportunity for African entrepreneurs to also get in there and play. If you can play in Africa, you can play in Venezuela, and we shouldn't shy away.
Okay, let's step back a bit. Give me a picture of Venezuela's oil industry. You said in the statement, that statement says that Venezuela is a country that is strategically important in terms of energy geography of the world. Walk me through some of the numbers.
I mean, right now you're seeing 1 million barrels of production being done, daily production. That number can quickly go up with the right kind of investment in infrastructure, and also entering a lot of wells that have been abandoned, opening new fields, and getting a lot of stuff done. That is a play. Is it an easy environment? No, it's a tough neighborhood, but you're going to need some good guys to go in. Listen, you don't find oil in Hollywood. You find oil in tough neighborhoods, and that's just what this is going to work. Venezuela is going to produce a lot. Is going going to reshape global dynamics of demand and supply in the world. You're really going to see a big play, be it coming from Asia or coming from Europe or coming from the United States, because they would be producing more oil than people have ever seen, and it would shape global dynamics. But don't forget also, we have a 5 to 10% global decline in oil production, and especially shale is declining. So sometimes you need to replace these fields that are declining. You need to find new oil. We need to do that every year, because if you're seeing decline that is going down, it's not really good for oil markets, and it's not just going to be about supply and demand factors shaping it. We need to find new oil. That's why we are big proponents of drill, baby, drill. That's why we're big proponents of getting more oil out of the ground so that we can fix the global decline and also deal with the energy security that we need today.
Interesting, you mentioned it a bit earlier in your comments, you sat down personally, face-to-face, as we saw in some of those images, with Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez. I'm not sure, as at that time you knew that she was going to become an acting president of the country. You talk about the relationship between Venezuela and Africa's oil industry, perhaps in particular with the APPO.
I think the relationship is going to continue to be strong, because this has been built. I mean, you were in Cape Town last year. The Venezuelan had one of the biggest delegations coming into Cape Town in support of Africa. We had Delcy Rodriguez. She spoke at Africa Energy Week last year. We've had meetings together with her, and it has been very supportive, very pragmatic. But here's even what it means with Africa. It says they are very open to African investors. They are very open to African players, and they want to see that African players do take part of whatever is happening in Venezuela. And if we got Africans right now investing $500 million to buy stakes in oil companies or producing in Africa, they can certainly do that in Venezuela. You have a brother nation friendly to our continent, and we need to take advantage of that. But here's also something that we have to pay attention to, Bosin. With the huge influx of investment that will be going into Venezuela over the next 15 to 20 or even 30 months, what is that going to happen? We got one more big competitor for capital coming into Africa. That's why we need to cut red tape. We need to get better fiscals. We need to move fast so that African projects can take shape, because the IOCs that are going to be re-entering Venezuela, they are going to have to take the money from somewhere. And if we are not bankable and we're not moving, be it in Namibia or Mozambique or Nigeria or Congo or Algeria, if we're not moving, they're going to take the money somewhere else where they've been welcome. And Venezuela saw a lot of that, where people left because at a certain time Venezuela was not seen as investable. Now that things are changing, the money is going to go right back there. So we need to continue making ourselves investable, so that, because we just want Africa to be the best place for all investments in the world. If we do that, we will be okay. But there's going to be some competition coming to Africa, from friendly competition coming to Africa from Venezuela.
Well, it looks like the ouster of the Venezuelan president is a welcome of sorts for our APPO's new Secretary General Ghazali, who has just resumed this week. What's your take on the leadership transition from Dr. Farouk to the Algerian-born Ghazali?
Dr. Omar Farouk was a great African, a Pan-African, a strong advocate for African energy development. But you know what he did? He also fixed APPO. He helped get APPO back on its feet. When Dr. Kaichuku had him over there working on the reforms, he helped reform APPO and put APPO back on the map. And I was very proud to have had a working relationship with him. We worked very well together with the chamber, and I think we need to give him his flowers. And we don't forget, he was a staunch advocate for the African Energy Bank, and they're going to launch it very soon. I think the new Secretary General is going to play a huge role. He got some big shoes to fit in, but also he is going to have to take APPO to the next level. I think the guy is competent. He has a very, very strong CV and resume around the oil and gas industry. Africans should embrace him. This brother from Algeria is just ready. I have had conversation with him. Our Executive Vice President, Ayuk, is right there in Brazzaville today and tomorrow, meeting with APPO. They are just going to get a lot of work done. I think we are going to get along very well. This Algerian guy and myself, we like peanut butter and jelly. We're going to get along well, and I think we're going to do a lot of good things for our continent.
I love that. That's music to my ears. So let's just begin to summarize and wrap up what do you make of the OPEC's Big Eight statement issued yesterday regarding commitments to existing output parameters? And do you think the developments in Venezuela will send OPEC back to the drawing board? I think they're having the next meeting or thereabout around early February, I beg your pardon. So what do you think? What do you make of that?
I don't think so. I think today we have Brent crude somewhere around 60, 61.5 is going to stay. But what does that what does that tell us? It tells us today that oil and natural gas prices are not going to be driven by supply and demand issues. It's going to be driven by political issues that we've seen around the world. You've seen the UAE and Saudi Arabia having their beef over issues around Yemen. We've seen Russia and Europe, but now we've seen Venezuela. These geopolitical issues are really going to determine prices. So a stable, more progressive, and also more secured world really helps, because then the conversation changes when it comes to market dynamics into supply and demand, and we want to keep it that way, because when we get it so volatile, it's really bad, especially for Africans, that we continue to need more investment in order to invest and produce this oil, and also build our energy infrastructure so that we can be able to consume what we produce, and the players can also be able to make a lot of money, and Africans should make a lot of money in it as well. But I do think that I don't think OPEC is going to rush into making decisions based on the situations in Venezuela. I think it's a big wait and see with what you're saying. You saw the statements a day ago. They're not going to be. But I tell you this: I will be with some of the OPEC folks in the next few days. When I hear anything, I'll come tell you. I'll tell you a secret.
Well, of course, as always, be the first to know here on Arise News. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having you on the show.